There's a story about a man named Richard Anderson. In his late 20s, he lived a busy, full life. He had several opportunities. He had friends who knew him as a great guy. He was well liked by many, and luck just happened to be on his side when he won the lottery. But even though he won over $1 million, he still was left with nothing. He had most of the money, yet he felt empty emotionally. And just because someone wins the lottery, that doesn't mean that they've won the ticket to happiness. Because after winning the lottery, Richard felt like he had no purpose anymore.
What makes American literature unique is its effective portrayal of one of the most common conflicts that Americans have seen throughout history. The fight between the individual and society, or the struggle for something better, relatively speaking, shows how difficult it is for Americans and their Western points of view to find true, pure happiness. It is evident that we are never completely satisfied with what we have. There is a desire for something better in life. For this reason, it becomes difficult for Americans to see beyond their own materialistic mindsets.
The key to true pure happiness lies in the ability to stay true to one's core values and fully understand oneself. One must be able to see past the material objects and focus on important aspects of life like family, friends, and the constant improving upon one's character.
Happiness is not something you can buy or achieve through having the most or the best things. Happiness is different than instant gratification that comes from things like money, clothes, and a nice house. It is important for one to be able to focus on the simple things in life and not get caught up in minor issues like these. Scott Fitzgerald portrays this theme in The Great Gatsby through the character Jay Gatsby. The novel takes place in the Roaring '20s, where there was a get-rich-quick mentality that captured the hearts and minds of many young Americans. Their obsession was to do anything and everything possible to make money and gain social status. Many Americans let these dreams and ambitions take complete control of their lives, and as a result, a loss of traditional morals and values followed, and this happened to Gatsby.
Gatsby's pursuit for a better life, one that required both wealth and the love of Daisy, who was a member of the social elite, caused him to abandon his modest Midwestern roots and traditional ethical boundaries. Gatsby focused on the wrong aspects of life, constantly wanted better. He sought to improve his social image and had extravagant parties, only to get the approval of the people of West Egg and the love of his life, Daisy. Daisy was the only person who attended who had significance in his life, and the rest weren't important to him at all.
Well, Gatsby expects it to be possible for him to win over a married woman that he's always been in love with. The only way he could be happy was to get Daisy to fall in love with him and to be rich enough for her approval.
He loved to flaunt his belongings. He even lied to his friends and people he knew about his entire life in order to be liked and accepted. Gatsby fell for the American idea that if one gets everything they desire, then they will live a life fulfilled with happiness.
The reader is able to understand that this is not the case because of how Gatsby's life turns out. Ironically, his wealth and all of his belongings bring him farther away from true happiness because of the failure to realize that money can't buy happiness, and a life revolving around money has no true sustenance to it. As a result, he has nothing.
Richard Wright's novel Native Son, Bigger Thomas also struggles to find happiness in his life. Like the entire black community during the 40s, he and his family were repressed by the confines placed upon the black race by society as a whole, and in particular the white race. Because of his difficult lifestyle and living conditions, he naturally desires something better, but in doing so he focuses his effort and attention on the wrong things.
He measures his happiness by money, jobs, women, and material things. Getting a job with a Dalton family proved to be not enough for him. He viewed his life as something terrible even though he had everything he needed for a full, happy life. He had family, he had friends, and a place to live. While his living conditions were by no means ideal, he completely abandoned these vital aspects of life and let luxury and money distract him.
We see this over and over again in society today. Like in the example of Richard Anderson, from a young age, people get caught in a money trap. It becomes immediately ingrained in our minds that success or happiness or whatever you want to call it is achieved by having the most, the biggest, the fastest, and the best things possible.
Today and throughout history, Americans have constantly chased a sense of instant gratification that comes from receiving all of these things. What happens when you get all these things, though? There's a void that is created and a sense of emptiness that comes with it. It is as if something is missing in one's life. That's what Bigger and Richer both found, and that thing that was missing was emotional satisfaction and contentment, which is better known as happiness. Henry David Thoreau, author of Walden, realized that many can learn many things about themselves and society by stepping out of the norm and secluding themselves. In his experiment, he lived in a small cabin on Walden Pond with nothing more than the items necessary to live comfortably and sustainably.
He takes an observatory outlook on society and comes to understand that people are constantly stuck in a cycle of happiness, then suffering, then happiness, then suffering, and it continues like this our whole lives.
The reason for this is because people are not just truly happy, they just think they are. It is the chase for instant gratification that creates this illusion. What he discovers in his experiment is that by redirecting his focus to simplicity and living without luxury, he was filled with satisfaction and overcome by happiness.
He summarizes this by saying,
Despite these realizations, it was still not easy for Thoreau to find this happiness.
while you can seclude yourself from society and force yourself not to indulge in the chase for instant gratification from material items, the struggle for lasting happiness continues.
It is still difficult for those who live in the simplest way to find the key to unlocking happiness, but it is the American mentality that makes it virtually impossible.